before we actually go into the business itself and making that happen, outside of the business whatsoever, just tell me a little bit about who you are as a person, what you like to do for fun, things like that.
Okay. Well, I got into USA in 91, right after the college. Originally, I'm from Ukraine, was born, raised, and went to college over there. So in 91, I came here to visit some relatives, and collapse of Soviet Union happened. And I just decided, well, I should probably stay because it was very unstable back there. And I did. Took me a long time to get my proper paperwork and citizenship, but it's another story. About me, for fun, I do like photography and I play soccer. That's what I do. But getting older and I getting less and less time for doing that. It's my work takes a lot of time out of my family.
Absolutely. So prior to the business, you mentioned you were here for school. Where, I guess, did the inspiration for starting the business happen, or what were the kind of preceding years leading up to it to really deciding you wanted to go out on this venture?
Well, I always was thinking to start a business. I didn't know what kind of business I would start. Back in Ukraine, I was trying to do some small business here and there, try to break on my own. Didn't happen. When I got here into the US, everything was totally different. I spoke no English whatsoever. So my first job was putting rubber, rubber handlers on the golf clubs at Callaway. This was my first job. And I got lucky and I was actually hired as a technician in Salk Institute here doing biology. And this is where I got introduced to computer in 91, 92. So, I studied computers in college, but it was mainframe. I didn't see real use of that. It was just so slow. But here, actually, I started seeing where people using computers in the lab and what kind of information they can receive, as well as they had some robotic systems, and you could plug in computer into your robots, and robots would move and do something with in the lab, which was really cool. So I got really interested in that and started to learn engineering and software. That's how I kind of got into this area, and I just loved it. Took a couple courses at local colleges here, and a lot of books at that time. There were not much on the internet. The internet was very weak. It was through the books. Had to read tons of books and work on myself for extra 4 to 6 hours every day to get where I want to be.
Definitely. So that kind of early inspiration, working in the lab, seeing kind of the potential of what could be, that was kind of your starting point. Actually making the business, I guess, did you have that kind of aha moment of this is something I can really go out and make money off of, or was it more of a passion project at first?
No, I just really I didn't see how I could start the business in this area. I just, I was just fascinated with technology. I love doing it. I love working it. I love using it. But as a business, no, I did not see for me potential for the business. Actually, I was thinking to do business in biotech field. Sorry, I'm just trying to shut down my phone so it doesn't interfere. So pretty much, no business that time. I was thinking about some other businesses. I even started doing a little bit on site after work, doing photography, doing some other stuff, a little bit of consulting, small things here and there. But no, it was not an inspiration for business yet. It did play its role later on in my life, but not at that time, not its early stages.
Definitely. So when and where, I guess, would you say that transition from it being more of kind of a side hobby passion to truly trying to make it a business? Did you initially have to take on funding when you started it, or did you kind of build it out of your basement per se?
Well, before this business, I had another business in 2006. Actually, that was my first real business I started. And we were building something similar as IPTV. This We had angels who invested some serious money into our business. We had about 15 people working for us and building this cool new technology. So you could actually watch your TV in the browser in 2006. The problem was we were way ahead of time. Connection speed was very low. Maybe the most like 3 megs per second, which is totally nothing today, right? But the biggest issue was with the content, and content providers, they were very scared of piracy and people will steal their stuff, and that was actually our failing point over there because there was no trust in the internet and the content. And by that time, 9 months in, our angels went belly up and they went bankrupt. So we had to close our business because we didn't generate any funds, anything. We were just developing software. So that was my big startup. We kind of survived for a year and we failed. So I was very upset. It was very depressing. So I went back and I was doing software engineering consulting again. And I was very depressed for a year. But the good thing about being in this industry as a software engineer, you can always find a job. It's not that hard. Especially if you're good. And a lot of job open right now. And then that's to answer your question.
For sure. So you had that initial, we'll call it a almost success. The technology was there, but not necessarily the money. Starting up the current business, what were those first few years like? When did you start bringing on employees, and how did you start finding clients?
Okay, let me tell you what happened, how this business actually started. It was by accident. So what happened, I was, after first business failure, I was working as a software engineer, principal software engineer, consultant for big companies, and I did a lot of projects here and there. I was doing really well, like the company I was employed with. I was there for 4 years, and the company suddenly started to have some issues with their clients. They had to close some offices through the US. And one of those offices in San Diego also got closed, and I got laid off. So I was playing, I still love the company. It's a great company to work for. And I understand now as a business owner, I understand why that decision was made. It makes sense now. At that time, I had no idea what to do. And I was lucky because my parents still live in Ukraine, and I do visit them once a year, maybe once every other year. Before I was laid off, actually, I was on a trip 6 months ago in Ukraine and spoke with my friends. It's like, well, what can we do? What kind of joint venture we can do? You in US, Ukraine is booming with the businesses, startups. There's more and more software developments going on. Can we build some project, or can we do something? You in this area? And I thought about that, but it was, we can do that. This sounds like a good idea. And when I get laid off, I said, well, I got to do that. It's a perfect opportunity. We can start small and just move on and see where it will lead us to. So we actually started, it was my partner in Ukraine, myself here, and we only had like one developer we hired to see if the whole process would work or not. And slowly I was doing still full-time for first, I would say 4 years. I still working full-time as a consultant, bringing the money into our business, but I could have simply just worked as a consultant for myself. But that was not the idea. The idea was to grow the business, to support developers, to hire more developers, to start budgeting a little bit more money for advertising and lead generation and materials and offices, equipment, all what any business has in common, right? All this infrastructure. So that's how it was pretty much started.
Definitely. So definitely kind of we'll call it out of the basement type operation, right? Super small scale right off the bat. Who were the first couple of clients? Did you initially reach out to them yourself, or did they find you? when did things kind of really start to get the ball rolling?
Well, yes, first clients for first couple of years actually were all my connections, people I used to work with. I spent over 20 years in this industry, and as a consultant, I worked on many different projects, different companies, so I knew quite a few people, especially here in San Diego. I had a really good reputation as a developer, and I started approaching my connection and asked them, well, what do you guys think if we can help you, reduce the cost, keep the same quality? I take care of all communication. You just don't have to worry about, early mornings or late nights. You don't have to worry about the quality of the code. And you also will be able to save some money. And some people say, yeah, we'll give it a try. And this is how we started. So many of first clients were connections. And interesting thing, some of my clients, I was actually going to the interviews because I was still looking for contracts for myself to keep going and to support the company. And some of the clients, I would go to the interview and talk to them, and they would offer a certain dollar amount, and which was kind of a little bit low for me at that point. And I would approach them, hey guys, I can still be involved. You can actually give even better performance. You will be able to save even more money and to expand your team. And actually, few clients, funny, but I got few clients through my interview with those companies. Some people would get mad and they thought I was doing sales, but no, I would not. I said, well, if you want to pay X here for local resources and local rate, that's fine. But what you're offering, it's not at my level. Yeah,
for sure.
Some people were happy, some people were pissed.
For sure. So you built off that pre-existing network you had, really using those connections to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yep. To start, yes, that's correct.
Definitely. So, initial revenue, was it contract based, like pay per service, or were you kind of entering more long-term agreements with these companies?
It's funny enough, no, we don't enter long-term agreements, but people like to keep us for a long time. Everything we start small. We want to show what we can do, what we're capable of doing, that our quality is superior to other people they're working with. And we don't lock our clients to any sort of, long-term engagement. If they don't feel we're the right partner for them, why should they pay? No, we don't. So everything is contract-based. All of our work is time and material most of the time, say 99%. And our clients, we give them a lot of leverage. We don't keep our clients hostage. Some people do. We're not going to release the code. We're not going to do this and that until you're not paying. Well, if people are not paying, they're probably one of two things: either they're not happy or they don't have a way to pay. Right? Maybe they lost some budgets. When the second thing happens, we can find the way which is worse for both of us and maybe long term, and we're flexible in that case. But if people don't want to pay, it's probably pissed, and you're not doing something right. So that's our approach.
Definitely.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's how we do.
For sure. So initially, you kind of built off that network, started to bring in these clients, and you were by no means holding anybody hostage. You weren't making them sign into anything they didn't want.
No, well, don't take me wrong. We did sign. There is paperwork for projects and NDAs, but it's not like, oh, we're going to sign up 5 years contract. There are some contracts that have on and start and end dates, but usually people extend those contracts and get no problems.
Definitely. So you started to get these couple of clients. Would you say along the way there were any big kind of like breakthrough moments where things really started to take off for you?
Well, yes, we actually hit one client, and it was a breakthrough. We had a client for a couple of years. It was moving slowly, but there's some changes for that client infrastructure. And we were slowly starting to add more and more resources to that client. Clients could see significant improvement in their performance and was able to grow, almost doubled in like 3 years. And their IT team, I don't know, grew from 1 person to 50 people. So that company grew their IT department, and we grew with that company. That was our big breakthrough in this case. Actually, another breakthrough was pretty much this year, and we've been in business 7 years. Before, we would try to reach out to other people, but only pretty much last 6 months we started getting calls where people reaching back to us. So either through referrals. Well, it's not true. We had some small referrals before people would refer to us, but it was maybe once a year, twice a year. This past 6 months, we have more and more incoming calls, emails, requests, people actually getting to us and they want us to do work for them. That was a big breakthrough for us.
For sure.
Answer.
Definitely. So along the way, obviously, things have been going pretty well so far. The business is obviously successful at this point, and you've been making money at it, so things are going well. On the opposite side of the things, would you say there are any big mistakes you made at any point in time, or things you wish you could have done differently?
That's right. Well, yes, there were some mistakes. I think, first of all, my mistake, if I could start this business earlier, I definitely would. I don't know why I was procrastinating for so long. For me, to losing my previous job was the best thing would ever happen to me. So that was mistake number one. I should have started right after I failed my first business. Second mistake was probably not from get-go having all proper legal documents in place. And that was actually, we had some side effect. So to have your organization properly structured, have all agreement in place, I think this is very important. That's the mistake. We fixed it, but again, it should have been done earlier in the life cycle.
Definitely. And I know a significant portion of your employees don't actually work in the US. Are there any struggles communicating back and forth, different time zones, things like that?
No, it's not. Actually, this is one of the best part of our business. And the reason why we started this business was when I was a consultant for different companies. Those companies were using different offshore companies for building the code, and it was terrible. Communication was terrible, deliverables were awful, quality was absolutely bad. What you would expect next morning would come because of bad communication. 2 days later, 3 days later, cycle was so everybody hated. You had to get up 6 in the morning or stay past midnight just to communicate with the offshore team. And this is why this business started. I said, well, why can't I stay late or get up early so my clients don't? I have a partner who lives in Ukraine, and he managed during our night. He managed all team members. We have multiple offices, but still we have close to 50 people right now. And he managed all the operation. We communicate daily. We have a completely transparent environment with our clients. Our clients have access to our developers at any time. Management responsible for any issues, we're just taking care of here. So that's I think this is where our success is. Our transparency, our high quality of the code. We usually deliver what we promise to deliver. At least we're trying to be always on time. Sometimes it doesn't work, and there's different reasons for it. But yes, that's how we keep this communication going. So I communicate with my partner. My partner communicate with team leads. Right now we have team leads, and team leads communicate with their team members. Now it's all structured. Plus, we do have very good procedures in place. Everybody is following the certain procedures, which are written protocols. That helps as well. When we have a structure, we know what to do, and now pretty much anybody can come in and follow the instructions and do what we do easily. Well, maybe not that easily, but relatively.
For sure. So you would say that having that really solid kind of structure and building blocks for the business have definitely been one of your, for sure, keys to success.
Yes, it's part of the keys to success. It's one of the but it's a big building block to have a solid process, and people need to follow those processes. I mean, to have a process is not enough. You need to make sure people do follow that process, and somebody needs to keep people accountable for what they're supposed to do.
For sure.
And yeah, this is true for development, for marketing, for sales, for operation. We have all those processes in place for all lines of business.
Absolutely. So the business itself, very well established. Obviously, you've put in your time to make it happen. Along the way, would you say that there were any big sacrifices that you personally had to make to ensure the success of it?
Yes, obviously. My biggest sacrifice, it's because I have to get up at 6 and be available. And sometimes I go to bed, past midnight, 1, or 2. And during the day, I'm on the calls and clients meetings. So it takes some burn on my family. That's the sacrifice. The biggest one is be away from the family.
For sure. And would you say that there's any aspect of the business that you personally don't enjoy? Is there anything that kind of rubs you the wrong way, or you'd rather not have to do it?
Well, actually, the part we don't enjoy, it doesn't happen often to us, but when we have to let somebody go. We feel we made a mistake by hiring somebody, and now we have to let them go. And this is rubs kind of in the wrong way. We know we made a mistake. It's not the person mistake who we hired, but because we did not spot this right on time, so now we have to pay, and that person actually has to pay. It's not pleasant times when you have to lay off somebody.
For sure. And just because I have you a little more on the negative side of things before I bring you back to a positive.
Yeah.
One of Charlie's favorite questions, and one that we always like to ask in these interviews, is there anything that keeps you up at night about the business that you're constantly worried about?
It doesn't really keeps me at night, but it keeps me alert. If your business is not growing, it's dying. And I feel, even though we're very solid with the amount of work right now, it's never enough for us. We want to grow. We want to be bigger and, grow faster. So not having enough projects line up in the pipeline, this is what keeps me, up at night. So always thinking, well, what can we do better to get more clients, to get more projects going on?
For sure. And just to now transition back to that kind of more positive side, what would you say the biggest perks of doing what you do are? What do you get the most enjoyment out of?
Well, perks are, I can travel anywhere I want. If, like I can choose any conference I want to go to, and I can travel there for the conference or client meetings. Another perk, I can take any time, like vacation at any time. I just didn't want to take vacation for past 2 years, but I can. And, another perk, I can get up as early as I want and go to bed as I want to. But I get up at 6 and I go to bed at midnight. That's the perk, So whatever I do for myself. I do for our company, for our people. Our company has very specific culture. We treat everybody as a part of the family, and this is part of the success, part of our story. We listen to our people, we share what are good and bad, and people do understand what we do. Perks, it's, when you're owner of the company, you can do whatever you want, pretty much. But I like what I do, and this is not a job for me. So I never get tired from what I'm doing.
For sure. And speaking of people, were there any other key individuals along the way that really led to the business's success?
There's quite a few actually our clients who believed in us, people who knew me, and they give me a try, and help us to succeed. There's like no one single individual. There's a group of people who believed in what we do. They saw potentials. They saw how they can benefit and how they can help us. Yes. So there's our first clients. They're big contributors to our success today.
For sure. And transitioning now, instead of being directly on the business in its current set and state today, what would you say you're most excited about regarding the future, or if there's any technologies coming up that you'd love to start pushing into, anything like that on the horizon?
Yes, so we do a lot of enterprise web and mobile development these days. There's new technology been around for quite a few years. Is machine learning and artificial intelligence. This is what we're looking for to start exploring those area of AI and machine learning. It's a big feature. We don't have much experience yet, but that's where we want to target at least some of our efforts. And futures, we have big goals for our company here in US and in Ukraine. And this is what we slowly crawling, but hopefully our steps will be slightly bigger, but we have the goal which we would like to achieve. Yes, there is big future for our company.
For sure. And on the other side of things, are there any threats or risk factors you see coming into the industry?
Threats and risks. Well, competition. It's always risk and threats. Right? For technologies company, there's no shortage of work. Every day new startups popping up. Everybody is technology based. Everything these days technology based. You go to your restroom and there's still some monitoring on the water, right? Which is used technology to flush the toilet. Anyway, so we're not worried about technology and lack of work. But yes, competition is one of our risks. We're concentrating on the US market primarily right now. This is also risk because we would like to expand to other parts of the world, and it's not easy for us at this point, and this is like another risk for our company. For industry in general, there's only positive things I can see. 5G coming in, communication will be fast. It's labor gets spread more equally across the world. You can find good resources all over the place. The risk is the cost is going higher. It's not like certain parts of the world have better rates. All rates are getting, almost leveled up, and they go higher, and they go higher and higher. So.
Definitely. And just because I gotta ask, because you're the man in charge, and you're the guy who started it all, if the opportunity ever arose, or if you've already had people reaching out, would you ever consider selling the business?
You can always consider, but would I sell it? Probably not, because we have certain goals. We want to achieve those goals, right? I'm not a quitter, so if I put something in mind, and I usually get to where I want it to be. So we're kind of not there yet. And when we reach our goal, then we will see if business will be for sale or not. But I treat this business as a extension of my family. All of our people it would be like selling your family. I don't see it happening in the next at least 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely. So to transition a little away from the business and more towards entrepreneurialism as a whole, would you have any advice for somebody looking to start up a business or kind of make their name in an industry where obviously you have a pretty unique perspective as compared to most of our other guests? What would you say kind of would be your key pieces of advice for making something happen or for somebody to follow their dreams?
Well, I think if you have a dream, you should actually go and do it. And don't listen to anybody who will say you will fail. Who is telling you no, just ignore those people. Just do what you wanted to do. You do need to be very professional in what you're doing, believe in yourself, and you must be an expert in what you're doing. This is my approach to that, because sometimes when some resources you have fails, you will need to step in and do what those resources could not do it. So you should be the best person at that time, especially when you're starting out, to support your company. If you're building a product, if you don't know something, just reach to other people, outsource what you don't know, but outsource to the best people. Sometimes, and this is typical problem with startups, sometimes we find those best people and they seem so expensive. Actually, in the long run, they're actually less expensive when you go and spend less money, but you have to rework and redo it, and then you will end up actually spending more money, and it takes a lot of time to get there. So, but do it, just do it. It's fail fast and start doing something again. Do it, fail, learn from your mistakes, move on.
Definitely. And do you have a favorite person or quote that you like to look to for inspiration at any point in time?
Yeah, actually, I do have a few, but one of them is really simple. It's from Churchill. He said, if you're going through hell, keep going. And that's exactly the point with startups. You will go through hell. Some days you would cry. You would say, "Hey, I don't want this anymore. Get me just stable job. 9 to 5. I don't want to deal with that." But you still need to kind of bite your lips and go through and just do it. Sometimes it's really hard, and especially when other people depends on you, it can be hard. If if you're not just you failing, you're failing people who is working with you. If you employ somebody, it's their family, and if you don't succeed, you have to let those people go, and what happened to their families, and so on. So that's a big chain of responsibilities here. But never give up.
For sure.
Yeah.
And our kind of final question that we always like to ask is a nice happy wrap up at the end. What would you say you're most grateful for at this point in your life?
Well, I'm grateful for my family, because they do understand, even though I can't spend as much time as I would like with my family. But my parents to give me a great education, and they taught me how to behave with different situations, with different people. I'm really grateful to this country who gave me this opportunity to actually my dream to come through. I'm really grateful to my ex-country I grew up in, and who is growing great resources right now for our business to succeed. But on the personal level, yes, this is pretty much my family at this point. They support me, they understand, and they're actually enjoying what I'm doing and benefits of what I'm doing right now.
Absolutely. And at this point, I'd love to just open things up to any final comments, points of advice, anything like that you'd love to say for closing things out
here. Well, one of the big change in my life, in my business, was when I joined a Khristich group. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but Khristich is a group for business owners, CEOs, and this is where people get together. It's like board of directors. That really helped me to step back from what I was doing, because I was working in the business many hours and was spending 99% of my time working in the business. So Khristich, and there's quite a few different groups, like organization like Khristich, that help you to understand what your weaknesses are and what's your potentials. I joined this group a couple of years ago, and actually that's what helped us to start growing as well, because I kind of step back and start working on the business, not in the business. So this is where we start implementing our procedures in places, put procedures in place, put right organizational structures, spending more time and money on different activities which we were even not thinking about. And that's, I think. So my point is, if you have join the groups of peers where you can share the similar problems. And sometimes you can hear a problem in one industry which can totally relate to you, relate to resources, conflicts, legal stuff. It's all relevant to any business. It's very, very good advice to people who is not joining those groups. Because to do it by yourself, it's really difficult. So you need to have a partner. But the problem with partnerships, almost all partnerships end at one point or another. So it's a given.
Absolutely. Other than that, though, that is going to wrap out all of our questions here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely a bunch of helpful advice for us to pass on to all of those budding entrepreneurs out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and it was kind of nice. I haven't done this for almost a year. But yeah, appreciate